I never thought I'd be in this position. Honestly, I thought I knew my wife inside and out. We'd been together for 10 years, shared a life, a house, a kid. She was the person I trusted most until last summer when everything started to fall apart. It was subtle at first. Little things I brushed off, her always working late, her phone ringing at weird hours, hiding her screen when I'd walk into the room. I told myself it was work stress or maybe just her need for privacy. But deep down, I knew something was off. One night I came home early from a business trip, something I rarely did because I felt uneasy. I wanted to surprise her. I figured I'd catch her in the act or get some clarity. I unlocked the door quietly, trying not to make a sound. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I tiptoed into the bedroom, expecting to see her at her desk or maybe asleep. Instead, I found her. She was in bed, her head turned away, body tense. But what caught my eye first was the scent. That unmistakable smell of cologne I didn't recognize. It was sharp, spicy, foreign. I froze, stomach twisting. My eyes darted to the nightstand where her phone was charging. I crept closer and saw a message pop up on the screen when a new notification dinged, something from a contact labeled Mike. I read the words, cold shock freezing my blood. Can't wait to see you tonight. My heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. I looked back at her. She had her eyes closed, breathing steady, but I saw her hand trembling slightly. I couldn't believe it. The woman I loved, the mother of my child, had been sneaking around behind my back all this time. I felt a mix of rage, confusion, and pure heartbreak. Every lie, every missed phone call she denied now made perfect sense. She had lied about nights she'd claimed were work dinners or late meetings, but she'd been with him. I stayed there, rooted to the spot, my fists clenched. I wanted to wake her up, shake her until she told me everything. But I didn't move. Instead, I just stared at her, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a heavy stone. When she finally stirred, I saw her eyes flutter open and meet mine. The look in her face, shock, guilt, but she quickly masked it with a calm that made me want to scream. "Hey," she said softly, voice trembling, "you're home early." I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "You lied to me, didn't you, about everything?" My voice broke, cracking under the weight of everything I'd just discovered. All these nights, all those business trips, they were with him. Her face paled. She sat up, clutching the sheets to her chest. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. Didn't mean. You think I didn't see the message, or smell the cologne, or notice how you started avoiding me, how you'd slip away when you thought I wasn't looking. My voice was rising, my hands trembling with the rush of adrenaline and rage. You lied for months. You betrayed me and our kid, all of it just so you could sneak around with my brother. She looked away, biting her lip, a tear sliding down her cheek. I didn't want you to find out like this. I was scared. Well, I wasn't feeling very sympathetic. Instead of crying, I felt something colder, darker forming. I had to plan my next move carefully. I wasn't going to just storm out and yell. I wanted to make sure she felt the full weight of what she'd done, that she understood I wasn't the kind of guy who'd go quietly. I needed time to think, to figure out how to turn this around in my favor. Revenge, I realized, wouldn't be satisfying if I didn't play it smart. As I turned to leave the room, I caught sight of her trembling hands clutching the sheets, and I decided right then that she was in for a lesson. I wouldn't let her think I'd forgive her so easily. I'd give her a taste of what betrayal really meant. But first, I had to get my evidence, my ammunition. And that's when the idea started forming, something cold, calculated, and ruthless. I had to do this right for myself. I left the house that night with my mind racing, the taste of betrayal sticking to my tongue like bitter ash. The next day, I started gathering everything. Photos, messages, receipts, anything that could be useful. I wasn't about to let her walk away from this without consequences. I knew her pattern. She'd slip up again, I was sure of it. And when she did, I'd be ready. I could feel the gears turning, shaping a plan I'd execute without mercy. I was broken but not beaten. Not yet. The next morning, I woke up with a cloud of rage and a plan already taking shape in my mind. That night's scene replayed like a sick movie on repeat, every detail fueling my resolve. I knew I had to be patient. I couldn't let her or my brother catch wind of my intentions. I needed undeniable proof, and I needed to set my trap carefully. First, I went through her phone. It wasn't difficult, she left it on the nightstand, probably expecting no one to snoop. I scrolled through her messages, her emails, her social media. I wanted everything out in the open, no matter how much it hurt. I saw more than I'd imagined, texts with him, plans for secret meetups, even a few photos from their last encounter. I felt a twist in my stomach, a hollow ache that made me want to punch something. What struck me most was the undeniable proof. You could see how she looked at him, how her tone changed when they talked. I also found receipts from a hotel booking she made last summer, a week after I'd gone on that business trip. The details were burned into my brain now. She lied about being away on work, but she was with him in some fancy hotel downtown sharing a bed. My fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. I took screenshots, saved the evidence, then carefully put her phone back. I didn't want her to suspect a thing. I had to keep calm, act normal while I put my plan into motion. Over the next couple of days, I started gathering more. I kept an eye on her, her routines, her habits. She was still acting strangely, avoiding eye contact, trying to cover her tracks. It was obvious she knew she'd been caught, at least a little. Sometimes I'd catch her staring at me with guilt shadowing her eyes, but she kept her mouth shut, knowing I wasn't stupid. One afternoon, I found her sitting on the porch, staring into the distance. I sat beside her, feeling cold inside. I wanted her to know I was serious. I leaned in just a bit, enough to make her uncomfortable. "You lied to me," I said, voice steady but low. "Every night, every excuse, you thought I wouldn't figure it out, huh?" She looked at me, tears pooling again, voice trembling. "I didn't want to hurt you, I was stupid." I scoffed. "Stupid, that's what you call it. Betraying your husband and your kid just for some guy, that's a hell of a lot more than stupid." Her shoulders shuddered and she looked away, silent. I wanted to yell, to shake her, but I knew I had to stay in control. The biggest challenge was making her understand I wasn't just going to let this slide. I wanted to make her regret everything. I had a plan, one that would hit her where it hurt without crossing the line, yet I needed her unguarded, vulnerable, and most importantly, caught off guard. I also had to think about my brother. Part of me was angry enough to want to confront him immediately, but I knew that wouldn't serve me best. I had to be strategic. I'd learned enough from movies and experience that revenge isn't about losing your temper. It's about patience, precision, and making sure you come out on top. As I sat there that day, I knew I couldn't just leave it at her tears and apologies. I had to act, and soon. I went back inside, heart pounding, blood rushing in my ears. I started drafting my plan, how I'd expose her, how I'd make her see she had crossed a line. I also realized I needed to do something drastic enough to make her think twice about ever pulling this again. That's when I remembered the one thing I'd overlooked, something she'd kept hidden, tucked away, thinking she was clever. An item that could tip my hand and make my revenge undeniable. I'd wait a few more days, watch her slip up again, then strike hard and fast. I felt the adrenaline surge again, like a shot of cold water down my spine. I wasn't just going to walk away from this betrayal. I was going to make sure she paid for it. The feeling of betrayal still burned in my chest, but now it was fueling my resolve. I had the pieces I needed. All I had to do was wait for her to make the next mistake, and when she did, I'd be ready to strike. A few more days passed and I watched her carefully, acting like everything was normal, which honestly was harder than I expected. Every time I saw her, I felt that familiar twist in my stomach, like someone had punched me there. She was still trying to act innocent, but her eyes kept darting around, like she was afraid I'd catch her in another lie. I kept my cool, knowing that my next move had to be precise. I was waiting for her to slip up again, to give me a reason to bring everything to a head. Meanwhile, I kept collecting evidence, the photos, the messages, the hotel receipts. I even managed to covertly install a simple app on her phone that would log her messages and calls, just in case she tried to delete anything. I was careful. I didn't want her to suspect I was onto her, but I also wasn't going to leave anything to chance. One evening, she got a call from Mike. When I heard her answer, my stomach clenched. I pretended to be busy in the other room, but I listened closely. Her voice sounded different, soft, almost whispering. She was saying things like, "I miss you already and don't forget about tonight." The call lasted 10 minutes. I knew then she was planning something again, maybe trying to meet him or make arrangements. I felt that rush of anger again, like cold needles in my veins. I'd had enough. I decided it was time to end this game. The following morning, I called her into the living room and sat her down. Looked nervous, like she knew I'd caught her but was waiting for me to say something. "You've been lying to me for months," I said softly but firmly. "I know about the hotel, the messages, the nights you spent with him, and I know you're planning to see him again tonight." Her face went pale, her eyes blinking fast. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. "I was just—" "Save it," I cut her off. "You're done lying. I've got enough now, but I want to tell you something. You're not just cheating on me. You're trying to destroy everything we built, and I won't stand for it. Not anymore." She was trembling, clutching her hands to her chest. "Please, I didn't mean for it to get this far. I thought I could fix it." I shook my head slowly. "Fix it? No, you'll regret this, but I'm not stupid. I've set a trap for you and you're going to walk right into it." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots of her messages, the hotel receipts, and the recordings from the app I installed. Her face crumpled. She stared at the evidence like it was a punch to the gut. "You think you can just lie your way out of this?" I asked, voice cold now. "I've got everything I need. You're caught, and now it's my turn to decide what happens next." She looked like she was about to cry, but I knew tears wouldn't change this. I'd made my plan. I'd prepared enough. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to make her feel everything she'd tried to hide. That night, I set my plan into motion. I turned on the camera I'd hidden in the living room. I wanted her to believe she could still act normal, to see her trying to pretend everything was fine. Then I sent her a message. "Tonight's the night you finally tell the truth." I wanted her to know I was ready. She left the house around 8 p.m., heading to some restaurant, probably to meet him again. I watched her through the camera, heart pounding. When she stepped into her car, I knew everything was about to change. I was finally going to force her to face her betrayal head-on. As she drove away, I took one last look around the house and then grabbed my phone to record her leaving. I knew I'd use this footage later, to remind her she couldn't escape her actions. I sat in silence afterward, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. I'd done everything I could. Now, I just had to wait and see how she'd react when she got home. I was finally ready to see this whole nightmare come crashing down. And I knew deep down that once she faced the consequences, nothing would ever be the same again. That night, I kept watching the clock, feeling my heart hammer in my chest. The house was dead silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. I kept my phone close, ready to hit record if she came back early or made a mistake. I'd set the stage, and now everything was on her. About an hour after she left, I heard the front door click open. My stomach sank, then clenched. I moved toward the living room, pretending to be casually sitting there. She stepped inside slowly, closing the door behind her. I could see her face pale, eyes darting like she knew she'd been caught but still hoped to somehow slip through. She froze when she saw me. Her lips parted like she was going to say something, but then she hesitated. "You lied to me again," I said quietly, voice steely. "You went out tonight to see him, didn't you?" She swallowed hard. I didn't mean for you to find out this way." "No. Well, I've got the footage," I said, pulling out my phone and holding it up. "You thought you could get away with it, but I've been watching, listening, recording everything. You're not just cheating, you're trying to destroy what we had." Her hands trembled as she stepped closer, voice trembling. "Please, I was just confused. I didn't want to hurt you. I love you," I scoffed. "Love? You're pregnant with my brother's kid and you think that's love? Maybe you're the one who's confused." She looked like she wanted to collapse. "It's not what it seems." I was. "You were lying," I interrupted. "You've been lying for months, and I don't want to hear your excuses anymore. You've betrayed me, betrayed our family." She started crying then, her shoulders shaking. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to spiral out of control. I was weak. I thought I could fix this, but I guess I've ruined everything." I looked at her and felt a strange, almost detached calm take over. I'd planned this for days, and now it was time to follow through. I didn't want her to walk away claiming she was sorry, that she loved me. Sorry didn't fix what she'd done. "You're right," I said, voice cold. "Sorry doesn't cut it. You're done. I want you out of my house, out of my life, and don't bother trying to contact me ever again." Her eyes widened in shock, then she whimpered. "You can't do this, please, we can fix it, I'll do anything." "No," I cut her off sharply. "You made your choice. You wanted him, you wanted to lie and cheat. Now I'll make sure you regret this for the rest of your life." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the papers I'd prepared. The divorce papers already filled out, waiting for her signature. I put them on the coffee table and slid them toward her. "You can sign these," I said, voice firm. "Or you can keep pretending everything's fine and see how far that gets you. But I'm done waiting for you to come back. I'm done pretending I don't know the truth." She stared at the papers, tears streaming down her face. "Please," she begged, voice cracking. "Don't do this. I'll leave, I swear, just don't take everything away from me." I shook my head slowly, feeling a strange sense of relief mixed with heartbreak. "It's too late for that. I've already decided. And trust me, you won't get another chance to break my heart like this." She looked at the papers again, hesitating. Then, with trembling hands, she reached out and signed her name. The sound of the pen scratching across the page echoed in the silence. I took the papers, folded them, and slid them into an envelope. I stood up, feeling a weight lift from my chest, but also a hollow void where my trust used to be. "Pack your stuff," I said quietly, "and don't come back." As she gathered her things, I realized I'd finally closed that chapter of my life. The betrayal was done. Now it was time to rebuild without her. The house felt empty, colder somehow, but I knew I'd survive. And I learned that sometimes the only way to truly move on is to cut out what's poison. That's exactly what I was going to do. A few days after she left, I found myself alone in a house that suddenly felt too big, too quiet. The silence was deafening, every corner echoing with memories I was trying to forget. I spent those days packing up her belongings, clothes, jewelry, anything that reminded me of the life she'd thrown away. I wanted to be the one to do it, to feel some semblance of control after everything that had unraveled. The thing is, I wasn't fooling myself. I knew deep down that I was hurt worse than I let on. There was this raw, gnawing emptiness in my chest, like a hole I couldn't fill. I kept replaying her words, her tears, the look in her eyes when she signed those papers. It all burned in my mind, but I refused to let her see how much it was affecting me. One night I sat on the porch, staring into the darkened street, feeling the cool air settle around me. It was quiet, save for the distant hum of cars and the occasional dog bark. I lit a cigarette, inhaling slowly, trying to steady my racing thoughts. I'd come so far, and I knew I couldn't go back. Not to her, not to that life. That's when I realized I needed closure, something final. I needed to confront one last thing. My brother, the one who'd betrayed me more than anyone else. I'd been holding back, thinking I'd deal with him later, but now it was time. I had to look him in the eye and tell him exactly how much I hated him. The next morning I drove to his house. It was a small, cluttered place, the kind of house that looked like it was kept alive by habit more than care. I knocked, and when he opened the door, I saw the guilt in his eyes. I didn't waste time. "Come outside," I said coldly. "We need to talk." He hesitated but stepped out into the yard. I looked at him, feeling the last remnants of restraint slipping away. "You lied to me too," I said bluntly. "You knew what she was doing. You knew she was with him and you didn't stop it. Why?" He looked down, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't want to hurt you. I thought I could fix things somehow." I scoffed, feeling my fists clench. "Fix what? Breaking your brother's life, cheating on your own family, you're pathetic." He looked up, eyes pleading. I was stupid. I didn't want to ruin everything. I thought I was doing what I had to, doing what you had to. I cut him off sharply. "You're a damn coward. You didn't think about how much this would destroy me, how much it would ruin everything we built." He looked like he was about to say something, but I didn't want to hear it. I turned away, feeling the last little shred of respect I had for him evaporate. I'd come to confront, to finally make him see what he'd done, and in the process, I realized I had to do something else. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small flash drive I'd hidden for weeks, loaded with everything I'd gathered, the messages, the photos, the recordings. It was time to show him the full extent of what I knew. "Here," I said, holding it out to him. "Watch, then tell me what you think about your choices." He hesitated, then took it. The guilt in his eyes was undeniable. I could see it. This was the moment he'd regret forever. I turned back toward my car, feeling lighter, yet more hollow than ever. I'd confronted him, but this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about finally ending this nightmare. Driving away, I felt a strange mixture of relief and bitterness. The truth was out, and I'd done what I needed to do. The betrayal was clear, and now there was nothing left between us but silence. I knew I'd be better off without them. As I pulled into my driveway later that evening, I realized that I'd crossed a line I'd never thought I'd have to cross, but it was necessary. Revenge wasn't about destruction, at least not entirely. It was about reclaiming my dignity, and I finally felt like I was taking back my life. Now, all that's left is to move forward. No more lies, no more betrayal. Just a fresh start built on the ruins of what once was. And honestly, it's going to be better this way. After I handed over the flash drive, I knew I'd done everything I could. The truth was out there now, buried in digital files that couldn't be ignored. Watching him listen to the recordings, see the messages, I felt a strange sense of closure, like I'd finally taken back what was mine, piece by piece. But underneath that, there was a deep ache, a hollow space where trust, love, and hope had once lived. That evening, I went back to the house alone. Everything inside looked different, smaller, emptier, like it had lost its warmth. The walls that once echoed with laughter and promises now just reflected my solitude. I started packing the last of her things, feeling every item I touched as a reminder of what was lost. The weight of betrayal is heavy, and the house was filled with it. When I finished, I took a moment to stand in the doorway, staring into the night. The street was quiet, just the flickering lights of passing cars, like distant memories fading into darkness. I closed my eyes, feeling the cool night air settle over me. It was finally over. The pain, the lies, the deception, all laid bare. I picked up the keys from the table and hesitated. This house, once full of life, was now just a shell of what we'd built. I knew I had to let go, move on. I took a deep breath, then dropped the keys into an envelope, sealing the chapter shut. As I turned to leave, I had a single thought. I wasn't just escaping her betrayal, I was reclaiming my life. No more pretending, no more justifications. I'd faced the worst and come out the other side, battered but free. Walking away from that house, I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. I realized that sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out the poison, no matter how much it hurts. And that's exactly what I did. I closed the door behind me, knowing I'd never walk back into that life again. That night, I slept better than I had in months, finally feeling the faint glow of hope for myself. I'd learned that betrayal cuts deep, but healing begins with letting go. Sometimes, the only way to truly move forward is to leave everything behind and trust that you'll find a better future waiting.